So, with my debate, I'll be discussing the pros of sex bots. So, the first thing says to identify the moral dilemma. So, I said that the moral dilemma regarding this case is deciding whether or not, with this video game, which is called Detroit Become Human, which encourages basically virtual prostitution, if it is ethically right or wrong. The second thing says to identify in detail the moral position, how one ought to act, that I must defend. I said that the moral position that I must defend is that what this game is encouraging is morally okay, which is the use of android sex workers. Factors contributing to an individual's sense of well-being in the use of a sex robot includes sexual and perhaps emotional companionship for those who are unable to find human partners. With an advanced form, a human could potentially form a satisfying relationship with a robotic partner. Pros for sex bots in this game are that sex bots can provide an alternative for people with socially unacceptable or harmful sexual preferences, such as pedophiles, and also that sex robots could take the place of prostitution and mitigate human trafficking. So those are some pros. The next thing says to identify the moral position that I must oppose. And the moral position that I must oppose is that the whole concept of sex androids is not wrong. So the next thing says to show how these positions support contradictory moral judgments. And I said that these positions both support contradictory moral judgments because from one viewpoint, android sex workers are okay, which it is contradictory because in real life, it is definitely not okay. The next thing says to identify arguments in favor of my position. I said that one argument that's in favor of my position is that in supporting the use of sex robots, you can argue that sexually transmitted diseases are not transmitted through a sex robot. It may release sexual frustrations in those who would otherwise vent in public via sexual harassment or assault, or it's a good tool to learn from and garner sexual experience before having human relations. The next thing says to identify those ethical theories that support your position. And the one that I chose, that I thought supported my position, was the utilitarianism, Utilitarianism, which says that action is right insofar as it promotes happiness, and that the greatest happiness of the greatest number should be the guiding principle of conduct. The use of android sex workers is just that it promotes actions that foster happiness or pleasure, and I'm pretty sure the use of android sex workers would result in the happiness of the greatest number of people in society today. The next thing says to identify those reasons why the principles involved in your moral position are more important or stronger than those of your opposition. And I said that some reasons why the principles involved in my moral position are stronger than those of my opposition is that the whole idea is harmless to an actual human. No real human is being used as an android sex worker. It's all virtual, it's all a game, so it's not real. So the next thing says to identify the arguments in favor of your opposition's position. And I said that one is that for many of the arguments against sex robots, morality comes into play. Some see having sexual relations with a female robot as an act of furthering the idea of women as objects in the perceptions of some men. Furthermore, they may feel as if a person who is predisposed towards sexual aggression or harassment will be fueled by using a sex robot for their negative future actions. This may even go so far as to embolden those who crave non-consensual sex. This is the very reason that many are concerned about companies producing sex robots or any type of games as such in the form of children or adults. The next thing says to identify those ethical theories that they might use to support their position. And I said that the ethical theory that can be used to support their position would be the deontology theory, which is an ethical theory that uses rules to distinguish between right and wrong. And that theory also actually ties into Kant that we just recently discussed. And he believed that we as people have a duty not to use other people as a means to our needs. So I thought that there would be a good ethical theory for that. The next thing it says to identify the arguments and theories they might use to suggest that their moral position is stronger or more important than yours. And I said that they may argue that the whole concept is just morally wrong because the idea, like I said earlier, would not be acceptable in society in real life. The next thing says to identify the objections you may take to your opposition's moral position and their ethical arguments. And I just said that, objections to my opposition's moral positions would be that, like I said earlier, it's virtual, it's not real, and it's harmless. Like, there's no actual harm being done. It's not real prostitution. That's what I said. Let's see. Then the next thing says to identify the objections the opposition might make to your moral position and ethical arguments. How do you respond to these objections? And something that I looked up and just read about just says that research has basically shown that heterosexual men who are exposed to pornography in sexual video games and men's lifestyle magazines and reality TV programs that objectify women are more likely to be accepting of violence against women. And also, in a world in which you can sleep with a prostitute and then murder her in a video game, is the one we just discussed earlier. Sex robots or misogynistic wish fulfillments. I think I said that wrong, sorry. While there have been calls for child sex robots to be banned from video games, no one seems to be advocating for a similar policy for their adult female counterparts. And this seems simple enough. It is illegal to have sex with a child, but not with an adult woman after all. But it is also illegal to have sex with an adult woman who does not consent. And consenting is not something these robots are capable of. That doesn't matter. The argument goes because these are not women, but inanimate objects, so consent is not necessary. The same reasoning is used to deflect fears that such robots could influence societal attitudes toward women. She's not a someone. And that's it. That's my debate.